we can imagine, anything we can think up, we can make manifest. Okay, we're incredible cosmic creatures, and we need to see ourselves that way on an individual basis. When you see yourself that way, you'll start to see others that way. You'll have a far more profound respect for other human beings, and that can't be a bad thing. I mean, it's written that God, when a man's ways please the Lord, and of course, man is mankind, it's womankind, humankind, right? Anytime I hear mankind or man, I think of women too. But when a man's ways please the Lord, then he causes even his enemies to live at peace with him. Now that's a beautiful thing. I don't want to, just because I talk about controversial things that some people think are radical, in my mind they're not at all. I mean, conspiracies, we all know there's conspiracies. Pick up an old school encyclopedia, okay, and a historical document. Go back as far as you want, and you can read up about false flag operations. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, like King Solomon wrote. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a duh. We know. It's just like, they set up Jesus for crucifixion. It's like he didn't do anything worthy of deserving death, but yet these people hated him without a cause, without justification, without a basis, none that made any valid ethical moral sense, even legally speaking. They did it through deception, through being duplicitous, speaking half-truths, intellectual dishonesty, being disingenuous. And these same people, the same caliber, the same mentality is still operating upon the earth today. These are very bad actors that are ruling over the affairs of men, that create the policies that are crammed down our throats from birth. We all have to live with these policies, but they exempt themselves from it. I wouldn't bother doing this video series here if I didn't feel like I was contributing with something that I'm not hearing. Because I listen to everybody. I love all the economists, and understanding how the economists tie into Scripture is very important. How understanding basic, rudimentary, fundamental economic principles is very important. Understanding how the evil one operates in this world. Jesus compared money to a false competing god. Okay, and only the true God is worthy of our affections and our attentions to the degree that we give it to the money masters of this world in compliance, okay, in conforming, in capitulating, and acquiescing, and complying to this system, okay, and it's just absurd. We can't serve two masters. We've got to know in our heart of hearts what's really, really important to us, what our values are. Are they right? Are your greatest values other souls, the souls of men, your own soul? Okay, because that's the right values to have. Okay, those are the values that God has. Number one, it's you and I. We are the greatest treasure that God can ever glean, okay, from this planet. It's nothing to do with the gold and silver, any other money or possession or material thing. Nothing. Okay, it's about you and I, about gaining our affections, okay, our attention of our own free will and accord, because he's not a harsh taskmaster. He doesn't want to force anybody to love him and to follow his guidelines, his rules that are for our own good. It's just like a parent telling you not to run across the street. Say, "Oh, stupid parent, I'm not going to listen. I know better." You know how bratty kids can be. And adults can be very bratty kids, because that's all we really are at the end of the day. We're God's children, made in his image and likeness, like little gods, little children, with big shoes to fill, with a big responsibility to be proper reflections, proper representatives of that God. And he's trying to give us advice and counsel and guidelines and rules to live life successfully by. And remember, success, he gives the definitions at the end of the day. What is success? It's, did you do the work I wanted? Were you my friend, a good, loyal, faithful friend? Did you choose to be my servant of your own free will and accord? What did you do? Did you try to win souls for me? Because that's what I want. I want friends. So what did you do? Did you tap into the power and the ability, the wherewithal I have to be successful at that? To find people to love me for good reason, to vindicate my name and make sure that everybody knows that I'm not to blame for anything negative. but only everything good, all the blessings and good things you've ever experienced, your five senses, a sense of touch and taste and smell and sight and hearing. Did you do that? Did you help people understand why they appreciate beautiful things? That gift, that's a gift that came from me, that you can appreciate beautiful things. God gave you that ability. He gave it to me. Okay, and we're blessed beyond belief. We have all sorts of blessings that go by every day that we fail to recognize because we're distracted. Our attention is diverted into the worldly things and worldly worries, paying bills, making the money to pay bills. I mean, it doesn't have to be this way, and someday it's not going to be, because like everybody out there that's praying the Lord's Prayer and crying out day and night to God, please, I don't know how much you can restrain yourself. How patient are you, God Almighty? When are you going to mete out justice upon this earth? How long are you going to let this regression happen? How long are you going to let your children to be pushed around and bullied and enslaved by these monsters of money, the madness, and these freaks that are ruling over the affairs of men that got no business doing this? Please, God, please put your foot down. But hey, He knows best. All those believers at some point have to let go, but they are praying the Lord's Prayer. What does it say? May God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So there's your values. That's what you're waiting with bated breath for as a believer, as a Christian, or any other faith out there that believes in God, and that ultimately God, the good guys, are going to win this thing. Good gals. All of us combined collectively, the righteous, are going to win this fight. This is the good fight for ultimately God's will being accomplished on earth as it is in heaven, which is an idealistic, a perfect place. That's it. That's what you're shooting for. You could say, oh, well, now you're a pipe dreamer. Oh, you're got your head in the clouds and all this. You're not practical. You lack common sense. You're impractical. Hey, listen, I can't deal with this forever. How long can I can't believe so many people contend and cope so well with this. And we should not. We need to speak out. We're tolerating it. We're accepting it. They've done this incrementally. The movement of this Overton window. Look up the term. But people don't even understand. When I talk to somebody, hey, you're at Walmart, and you ask the clerk, you say, hey, you know what minimum wage used to be in the 60s? You tell them, hey, well, it was a 190 cents an hour, And then they think, oh, this guy's going to tell me, hey, how good I've got it at $10 an hour. Right. How much progress we've made on that front. You see, and you could, people can slant the story that way, just like the mainstream media. Totally, utterly, profoundly remiss, deliberately remiss at talking about these things and educating the public about these things. How could this have happened? You understand? It happened gradually, slowly, just like the analogy of the frog in the pot of water. If you lull them to sleep and just, turn up the flame really slowly, then they won't hop out of the pot. If you turn it up too fast, they'll hop out. Okay, because in the mid-1960s, if they told people that, hey, that $1 an hour that you've been earning that's been sufficient to support your family and have dignity and pay the mortgage on your house, yes, folks, that used to be America. That's the way it was. Anywhere in this country on a minimum wage job, remember when they came up with this standard by law, mandate of law, you had to pay your workers this amount of money. This was fair. And if employers were forced by law to have to pay more, they had good cause, good basis, good justification, good reason to complain about that and say, what's the deal here? I thought you said this was sufficient for people to have this middle-class life and support their families. Wife could stay home, take care of the family if she wanted to, or she could work too, find a babysitter, whatever. Okay, but they could live a comfortable existence. They would have disposable income. Do you understand? Do you think if they had told the public then that, hey, that $1 an hour now that you're making, well, guess what? You're still going to be making that, but it's going to be worth 2.5 cents tomorrow. That's what they've done, folks. So people that are making $10 an hour just have no concept. They can't believe it when I tell them, look, when it comes down to the math, and I talk about the consumer price index a little, the CPI, and how you've got to calculate this market basket of goods, your housing costs, your food costs, your energy costs, and these sort of things, essential human needs, costs. Okay, the consumer price index, right? This market basket of goods, that it's a mathematical calculation. Nobody can argue these points. When I tell them that, no, really, by now, the commensurate amount to be worth that dollar an hour in the mid 60s today, because of the cost of living inflation, would have to be $40 an hour. Okay? Okay, then they understand where I'm coming from here. This is criminal. Okay, this is absurd. I mean, if that's not legalizing slavery right under our nose, I don't know what is. Okay, because that's what it is. That's exactly what they've done here. And it's absurd. I mean, we've got a society that revolves around the problems being maintained, being sustained. Do you understand? And preferably increasing, because that gives people more relevance, more job security. And which jobs specifically am I talking about? I mean, this cost of living thing, raising the cost of living. And you've got the mainstream media out there telling people how great it is when your house goes up for no reason. In real estate school, they've got a term. They never use it on the mainstream media. They're not trying to educate people again. But it's a term called an unearned, right? You didn't earn it, right? So just, freebies, increment. Okay, but that's just a farce in and of itself. Do you understand? Because what they're really telling you is that your property, your real estate, your house went up in cost, in price to others, so they've got to pay you more. What they don't tell you, okay, is that if you decide to move somewhere and sell your house, you say, oh, well, that's great for me. I got more money. What you're going to have to pay somewhere else is also more. So your property taxes are going to go up because they're based on what you pay